that basically there's the dimension of eternity, an unlimited range that awareness can spread to.
So if I'm looking at this from a practical perspective, and I've never experienced, I mean, I'm conscious.
Mm-hmm.
I have an idea who I am. And I'm sitting here and I'm watching this show at home
Mm-hmm.
on some computer right now, and people are talking about growth and transformation and what have you. Is there a frame of reference that I could reference for what this might mean to me or for me?
Well, for me, the easiest frame of reference is my own body. If
Mm-hmm.
I'm aware of the body that my consciousness exists in, that my thoughts operate in my brain, basically my body is my tool.
Mm-hmm.
With awareness of the body and what's happening in the body itself then becomes a receiver of energies.
Mm-hmm.
So that the energies that surround us start to be transformed in a different way. And there's more ability to access creative energies. And creative energy, in the spiritual sense, creates my connection with my soul.
Mm-hmm.
So normally, what I would consider my soul is a distant phenomenon. It's not something that the deepest core of me is that I'm in contact with. It may be somewhere in my subconscious. But the value of being connected with the deeper parts is there's a depth of wisdom and there's a depth of perception. There's a depth of understanding. There's a connection with conscience. There's all sorts of things that are possible. If I can come into my body, say as a first step, and expand my awareness, the totality of who I am expands beyond my own individual self.
If I'm sitting at home, and from the standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
I think of the esoteric schools that we're talking about, if I'm in my ego,
Mm-hmm.
There are certain things that happen that ego is prone to, that higher consciousness is not quite as prone to.
Sure.
Things like fear,
Mm-hmm.
anger, a sense of being out of control, something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
If I pursue this path to
Mm-hmm.
transformation, the theory goes, and correct me if I'm wrong, that my fear is based on a certain amount of unknowing.
Right.
To some degree that somebody could say, well, I'm afraid of the tiger, and of course everyone would be afraid of the tiger. Why wouldn't everyone be afraid of the tiger? But fear, whenever you're having it, is pointless. It's counterproductive. If you actually did face a tiger, fear would get in the way. If you progress in this understanding, the theory would be that the tiger would not be fearsome the way you understand fear, and that
Right.
you could perform better in the face of being confronted by the tiger.
Right.
So my motivation would be, if I was perhaps at home and I was watching the show, would be that if I have fears in my life, that I have places where things are not working for me, that I should start to pursue a discipline toward transformation. And if I can do that, I will leave my fears behind.
Mm-hmm.
So can you think of any other things along those lines that might clarify that point? Or
Specifically about fear?
well, I mean, any of those. I mean, if I'm sitting and I'm trying to look at this from
sure.
and justify my reason for wanting to investigate this
Right.
idea.
Well, basically, as we're mostly reactionary. So if you say something to me and inwardly I have a reaction and I say what my reaction is. If you insult me, I might have a reaction of feeling defensive because I don't think I deserved that kind of comment. And most of our life goes sort of back and forth with reactions.
I see.
The problem with reactions is that they don't always serve our purposes. So in a certain situation, my anger may cause me to lose my job.
Mm-hmm.
In another circumstance, my fear may prevent me from doing what I really need to do in an opportunity that might never come again.
Yes.
So by being aware and expanding our consciousness, we get to the root of ourselves in these situations so that the peripheral reaction that happens in a case of anger, fear, or any of these common forms of lower emotions, there's something that can sift through it and can see through the surface of it. So, for example, if somebody insults me, I may feel or see directly that the person who is in that position is a hurt person. And it may be because they were mistreated by their parents or whatever the circumstances is. By being able to have a deeper connection with the present moment and the person that I'm speaking with, then my compassion for seeing that would prevent me from just falling into anger and saying something that wouldn't be beneficial for that situation. So part of the idea of more consciousness in life is to have the ability to choose, to decide what is appropriate for a given moment, and to not just be subject for reaction. If I'm there and deciding, I have an aspect of will or an aspect of I as an individual that isn't there if I'm just reacting. So when I react, I'm basically the set of patterns that were formed in my childhood and all my life up to now. When I learn to have a deeper connection with myself and have a choice at a given moment how to manifest, then there's a conscious intention that inwardly is manifested as a state of I am. That I am an individual that can choose what to do, what to say, what is appropriate, rather than just fall into a mechanical action. And the advantage of that is many of our mechanical reactions get us into trouble, whether it be because we get into a habit that, say if I have a habit of drinking, I may become an alcoholic, or a habit of smoking may lead me to certain forms of cancer, or various kinds of things that we do mechanically don't serve us.
And many of us who would perhaps not be well acquainted with these ideas would maybe have something where they were a parent, and a child did something and just lost control, and suddenly you find yourself doing something violent to the child. Automatically it comes, and it just comes from nowhere, and you're shaking the child, or you're hitting the child.
Sure.
And suddenly you look back and say, my God, where did that come from? You know, my heart was not in my own actions.
Right.
I was separate from it. That's not me. I'm horrified at who I am. I've always thought that it was good to have those reactions, that it was convenient to just have automatic responses. Right. But now I've done something that just really horrifies me.
And that's a good example, because as a parent, when that kind of behavior manifests, we see that it perpetuates that with our children.
Yes.
So this is one case where it's very important to, if we're going to increase the quality of life on this planet, that we don't have this kind of manifestation with children. Because the children are so impressionable, this kind of reaction not only teaches them that kind of behavior, but it also has a psychological impact that, in many cases, the child never recovers from, or has to enter a spiritual path in depth and work to this level of consciousness to be able to even approach that scar.
They learn that's a way that they feel their power taken away. They feel disempowered by this, and they realize that, and they want to get it back, so they do it to other people.
Right.